But I got to mention this before we go any further. I have to say something. Let's face it, folks, there's a lot of anger in America today between the war and the uncertain economy and this very divisive presidential election. Tempers are really running high right now. And we have one person on our staff that's particularly angry. One of our show's graphic designers, Pierre Bernard. There he is right there. Pierre, that's him in his living room. Anyway, Pierre says he knows how America feels, and he's ready to articulate our anger for all of us. And he thought he might as well be comfortable while he does it. So here he is now in a little segment we like to call Pierre Bernard's Recliner of Rage.
Pierre Bernard, Recliner of Rage!
Well, hey there, Pierre. It's nice to see you. Are you comfortable and angry?
Comfortable and furious, Conan.
Then go ahead and speak for America, Pierre.
Okay, here goes. There's this show on the Sci-Fi Network called Stargate SG-1, probably the best sci-fi show since Star Trek. In every episode, the Stargate team, led by Colonel Jack O'Neill, goes through the Stargate on another adventure, killing ghouls and saving the Earth from aliens. But there's this one character that I find extremely annoying, Dr. Daniel Jackson, played by actor Michael Shanks. He always slows down the action by trying to understand the different alien cultures they encounter, even those aliens who are trying to kill them. In season 5, I thought they finally fixed the show by killing off this guy. Without him, there was way more action and special effects. But then in season 7, they brought him back from the dead like Spock. Since then, the action is okay, but when this guy gets on screen, once again, it's the usual talking and getting to know you nonsense. Bottom line, America, Stargate SG-1 is way better without Dr. Daniel Jackson.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much, Pierre. I think there are 6 people out there who know exactly what you're talking about.
Damn straight, Conan, there are.
All right. Pierre Bernard, everybody. You got to give it to him. We'll take a break. When we come back, Brian Posehn's here.
Welcome to episode 418 of Dial the Gate, the Stargate Oral History Project. You know him. He's here with me right now. Pierre Bernard. Pierre, are you comfortable and angry?
I'm comfortable and furious.
Me too. Me too. I'm on day 2 of a 3-day fast, and it's like, give me food. How are you, my friend? Besides comfortable and furious.
I'm doing good.
That's awesome.
Comfortable and furious.
Where
but doing good.
did the idea of this bit come from? And was this your recliner?
No, it wasn't my recliner. It was NBC's recliner, for one.
Network, right.
And 2, the bit came from the amazing writer, Brian Stack. The guy, he one day, I still remember how this played out. One day, he gave me a call early in the morning, which was very unusual. We were in the office. He called me in the office, and we're on the phone, and he's asking, we're just talking, and I'm waiting for him to tell me what he needs. I'm assuming he's ordering graphics, but he proceeds to go, well, how was your weekend? What did you do this weekend? And I'm talking, and it came to mind that particular weekend, I happened to be trying to convert I have a huge LP collection, and I wanted to convert those LPs into MP3 files. So I bought this
Absolutely.
device called I think it's called an iMac or iMic or something. And I started to tell him how I was trying to convert, but it wasn't quite working and all the issues going on with it. And all of a sudden he goes out of the blue, he goes, "All right, do me a favor. Can you write down everything you just told me
This
and
is a
any other
bit.
details and send it to me? Because I gotta go." And I'm thinking to
Yeah.
myself, that's weird. We're having a conversation. You want me to write this conversation down? But I
Yeah.
did it. I sent it to him. And then later in the day, I get a call from a stage manager. He says, "Come down, we want to block you." And at that point in time, I'm thinking to myself, all right, I've done random things on the show, so they want to block me. It didn't, no big deal. So I went down there, they blocked me, and then they sent me back up. There was no recliner at the time
Okay.
to even give me a hint where this was going. They just had me stand there at a spot and they did their camera work and then they sent me back to the office. So I'm assuming, I'm waiting to get the script to find out what it is that they're going to have me do. Nothing comes down. Then it gets closer into later afternoon. We're taping. I think we taped around 4:30. About half an hour prior, I get the call, "Come down, we're ready for you." And I'm thinking, oh God, they
Ready
didn't
for
show me the
what?
script. I really don't know what I'm going to say, what I'm going to be doing. So I get down there and Brian is there and he pulls me aside and he says, "All right, here, here's what we're going to do. We're going to have cue cards for you, so don't worry. And you're basically going to read what you sent me. And we're going to have you sit in that chair." I'm thinking to myself, what? What? He said, "Don't worry. If you screw up, it's going to be fine. Just read it, read the cards, and, uh, you know, don't worry about it." So we did it. I read the cards. Some of the language was changed on the card,
Sure.
and I fumbled a bit, but the audience loved it. And
That's
Conan
the
obviously
magic. They're looking
was
for
laughing
sincerity.
while we were doing it. So I knew I did something right, but I had no idea at the time that we had begun something huge because I guess people loved it to the point that they we did it again and then again, and it started to become a routine. I would say almost every 2 to 3 weeks we did one. It was just an amazing thing. I never saw that coming.
And Stargate was a good 15 bits into this segment, right? Around and in that neighborhood.
Yeah, I would say about at least 15 bits in because by the time I got that call from Vancouver, we have been doing the Recliner Rage for a while. So I think, yeah, I would say at least 15 segments have aired by that point in time.
Wow.
And the funny thing about that moment in time as well, I still, which I know it's crazy, but saved the phone call that I got from, I forgot her, Tanya. I think her name was Tanya. She
Okay.
called me to tell me the date, the time, and flight information and all that stuff. I saved that phone call. I still have it. I carry it around on my phone. I have it backed up on my computer. I've saved that phone call
There is
because to me,
nothing
I
wrong
felt
with
that was
that.
my Cinderella moment. Huh?
There's not a thing wrong with
That
that. Can you
that
tilt down your camera a little bit? We want to see your uniform.
oh,
There he
yes.
is. Master Sergeant
I,
O'Brien. That's
I'm
right.
wearing the actual uniform
Screen used,
that
folks.
we taped the bit with when I was in
Wow.
Vancouver.
Bits. 2 bits. You can tilt it up a
Yeah,
little bit now, Pierre. Thank you.
I usually keep this suit inside of a bag, well airtight, well protected. So that's why it looks so pristine and clean.
Absolutely. We can continue this way if you'd like.
And and what you know, I thought I would share something with you. In that bag of clothes, I literally kept all the clothes that I
Yeah.
wore that day.
Yeah.
Literally.
We're
I
talking
mean,
for
from
0 hour.
socks to underclothes. Yes, for 0
Okay.
hours. And in the bag, while I was pulling the suit out, I discovered a couple of things that I totally forgot existed. For one, I guess the folks in Vancouver wanted to add an additional comedy bit in, and they were hoping it could be written in. I don't, we never used it, but I thought it was funny enough that I kept it. Was these boxers. Now, I don't know if you can see the
Oh, we can
Stargate
see, Pierre.
emblem that's on the boxers. It's coming apart, it's crumbling because, believe it or not, 0 hours is 22 years ago. I
Man, is
mean,
it? It
I'm holding
is.
an underwear that I haven't worn for 22 years.
So, okay, so hold
So
on just a
it's
second.
coming apart. I
Underneath the
don't know if you can.
jumpsuit, you were wearing those.
Yes, yes,
My God.
yes. This gets even crazier, David. This
Oh,
gets
man.
crazier, man.
I'm not sure I can
On
handle
the
it.
day that Michael Shanks shot me, huh?
Yes. Go ahead.
Sorry. The time delay is throwing me off a little,
No, it's
so
all
I'm
right. Yeah,
sorry.
this is a little bit longer than it should be. I apologize.
Okay. On the day that Michael Shanks shot me, I was wearing those things they call squibs, I believe,
Yes.
and they're pellets that are activated as the gun is shooting. They pop, and the blood that's in within shoots out. So on that particular day, I had my own boxers on underneath the uniform, and they gave me the black t-shirt which I was wearing. And on top of the black t-shirt was the squibs. So when those things went off, all that blood was flying out and it was flying in as well. So it got all over the shirt. The shirt was ruined.
Oh my
What
gosh.
I didn't realize until I got undressed was that the blood got all over my boxers as well. Now I'm looking in the bag that contains this outfit, and I realize I saved those boxers. I wish I had known this was going to happen. I would have waited to do this on camera. But when I unfolded this, you could hear the crunchy sound of the blood
Oh my God.
on so these were the boxers that I was wearing when Michael Shanks shot me.
Oh,
I mean, how
jeez.
crazy is that?
I mean, there are very few people who can say that Daniel slash Michael shot them in the show. So it's
Yes.
just it's one of those beats that's just like they went there, and that was what was really cool about Stargate was that they were willing to do that. I am one of the few channels that have a permission to show certain Stargate clips. And I would like to show everyone kind of an alternate clip that aired that wasn't a part of the show. It had certain extended shots of you, and these were played all for comedy. So since the last time we met, Amazon and MGM have done some work with a little bit of work with the channel, and I've gotten since permission to do this. So I would like to show this to everybody here. So give me just a moment, and I will bring this bit in.
It's SG-1's identification code. Sergeant O'Brien transmitted a hold signal back through the gate and is awaiting your instruction.
Brian?
We have audio contact, sir. It's Colonel Carter.
Carter?
We're under heavy fire, sir. Open the iris.
You're clear.
Can we roll that? Thanks.
Dr. Jackson?
Right. There I go.
Executive producer Robert C. Cooper. And no, that was good stuff. I love that the production was just willing to go there and lean fully into the comedy whenever they had a chance. With 100, with 200, with you again in 200,
Yes.
they secretly said that it was a comedy. But that's awesome, man.
You know, as I get older and I'm watching people who are older lose their memory, and I'm thinking to myself, if I lose any of my memories, I hope I can retain these memories from, particularly from Stargate, because I feel that was a moment in that was lightning,
Yeah.
and that will not likely strike me again in this lifetime. And I want to hang on to those memories for as long as I can hang on to them, because they were the best. You know, watching those clips right now, I can remember how I felt. I can feel the air in Vancouver. I don't know how to explain it. It's just it's vivid in my mind. I can almost say it's happening right now, even though I know it's not happening right now.
It's time travel.
It's
You know,
just
there's a certain amount of time
trip.
travel to it. Yeah, especially when people
Yeah.
who appreciate the project get together and say, "Hey, remember when?" and they have details about it. It's just and also the fact that Stargate is coming back.
Yes. You know, it's funny when, you know, nowadays when I watch YouTube, and it's so random how they have the algorithm working and how things come up. And it's like, I don't watch Dial the Gate enough. I should be watching a lot more. But one day, while I was working, your interview came up. I forgot his name, and you guys were talking about the fact that Amazon is planning to do Stargate.
Martin
And
Gero.
I'm watching this, and I'm thinking to myself, "Wow, this is amazing. This is great." And I'm going somewhere with this.
You want to talk about
God,
lightning
I
in a
lost my
bottle
train of thought.
moments? That was mine when I logged into Zoom a few days before we recorded that to find out that the show was coming back and that Darren and I had been picked to introduce that to the world, when we all know they could have shot that on the space station if they wanted to, and NASA and everyone else
Exactly.
would have said yes. They would have said yes.
I totally agree. And the point I was going to make was that I suddenly realized there's several episodes that I haven't watched where you had people, actors and actresses from the show on interviewed, and I started watching some of these back episodes, and it reignited why I loved the show so much. It reignited that passion, and I'm hoping that whatever Amazon is going to present us will be in keeping with the show. They won't rewrite it to the point that we don't recognize it, because a friend of mine recently sent me a link to a video that someone was talking about a Star Trek series that was created by the fans. And apparently the fans, they spent all their money, they built these sets, they brought in people, they were fortunate enough to get one or two of the original actors and actresses from Star Trek involved, and they filmed, I think, 10 or 12 episodes.
Star Trek
only to
continues
have
with Vic
Paramount
Mignogna.
turn around and tell them, yeah,
Yeah.
they told them, you cannot air any of this stuff, you have to stop. And this is one of the things I've always been a loud voice about, is that these shows do not exist without the fan. The moment you forget that, I think you no longer have a show. I don't care what you think that property is worth. It's worthless the moment you exclude the fans. The fans are very relevant. And yes, you can take claim to creating something, but once you let that animal loose and it's in the hands of the fandom is dictating the direction that they want to take. They're
Where they want it to go.
dictating the direction they want to go with this ride. And if you, as a creator, are not paying attention, you can lose everything and all the goodwill that you've put into your project. So I'm hoping with Stargate that everyone is paying attention to what the fans want and not what the studio wants. Because I know the studio owns the property. I get that. But the fans are relevant. The fans are what made the show relevant. And if we're excluding fans, then we don't have a show anymore.
It's really interesting that you bring that up because one of my favorite documentaries of all time, which you've probably seen, is called The People versus George Lucas. Do you remember this?
Yeah, I saw it a while back. I don't remember it in detail, but I remember it a while back.
A lot of it's relevant today. There are several quotes that stick me from that just stick with me from that program, and one of them was asking, "What does George Lucas owe to fans?" And it's kind of I guess it's probably fairly a pragmatic opinion, but someone who was also in the business and has their own IP, they basically said George Lucas' responsibility to the fans is to take their money. Yes, I agree with that. But the other one that really sticks with me, and it's fallen out of the back of my head just now, but the driving thing that I'm trying to negotiate with in my own mind at the moment is, where does the ownership take over from the fandom to carry it forward? Because a lot of us, back in the day when we were big Star Wars fans, when episode 2, episode 3 were coming out, especially after episode 1, they were seeing that it wasn't, not everyone was getting what they were expecting. And the other thing that's the other quote that it was, fans really love that thing that you did. They would like another one of those, please. And the artist doesn't always want to give that. At least in this situation, we are lucky enough to have a creative in the form of Martin Gero, who has his pages, his written pages were in all 3 of those shows, and he's now back in it again. But I don't expect him to be the same writer that he was 20 years ago. But add another codicil onto this, I do expect it to have themes that echo what came before. Otherwise, it's just a name. It's wearing
Exactly.
It's just wearing what came before as a skin suit, and that's not cool.
Exactly. You nailed it. So yeah, I'm excited. I can't wait. I'm hoping this is going to air in 2 years. I figured production time, they're probably writing it right now. I figured next year they're probably going to shoot it. So I'm assuming maybe 2028, 2029 is when it's going to happen. God knows we're going to need it at that point in time.
I mean, for
But-
sure. Everyone needs optimistic sci-fi, and get it to us soon, please. But they're starting to film in the fall. So I'm hopeful for
fall of this year?
Starting to film in the fall. So I am hopeful early 2028.
Wow, that's great. That's great news. I can't wait then. I can't wait. Maybe next year.
It's entirely possible that we could see. Well, I suspect a trailer or something by the end of next year. Yeah, for sure.
That would be fantastic. Another thing that was running through my mind as well, because when I was watching that particular interview, you guys were talking about the upcoming show, uh, and you were talking some. I think some of the people writing in were asking questions about what would the show be about. And could we visit? Is the Stargate going to be public, or is it going to still be a secret
Right.
organization? And I'm thinking to myself, well, the world that Stargate existed in was very optimistic and very positive. And how do you incorporate what does that show look like in our current world? It, I'm thinking, how does that dynamic work? And one of the thoughts that crossed my mind is that we are a society of cell phones. We are a
Yeah.
society of video.
Yeah.
We literally tape everything we do round the clock. Are you telling me there's a secret government organization that exists that's traveling through wormholes to other planets, and you're telling me that every soldier involved in that organization is not carrying a cell phone in their pocket that is capable of 4K video? Then not one of them walked into that gate room, and shot video of the gate room in operation. You want me to believe that? And I'm thinking, that's a stretch. I don't know how that fits in to today's society where we literally have people taping things that you would think is so irrelevant,
Yeah.
but it's on film. People are shooting it. It reminds me of that thing. I heard a while back Neil deGrasse Tyson was talking about aliens, and he brought up the fact that in this day and age, we don't have as many sightings of aliens. And he brought up the fact part of it is because everyone is walking around with cameras. If there's an alien to be seen, someone is going to get that photo. So it's only a matter of time. And I'm thinking, well, how does that translate into secret organizations? Do we really still have secret organizations on Earth? I would like to believe so, but there's a part of me that says if we do, you all the members of that organization are not going to be on the same page, and you're going to have a leak somewhere. And how do you address that leak? I'm thinking story-wise, how does Stargate exist in a world where it's claiming to be a secret organization? It's a hard sell for me, and I'm hoping they could figure that out and write it in a way that will make sense. But it just I just keep thinking you all your military people are going to have cell phones on them, unless you're suddenly saying that people entering Cheyenne Mountain are no longer carrying phones. That's the only way you keep that secret. But even then, verbally, these folks, how do you, I don't know. I just find it hard for me as a person to believe that keeping a secret is possible in this day and age. A secret this big.
I think that there would be folks at the CIA who would have a response to that for sure. The especially after the Snowden leak, we get that sooner or later there would be a reasonable shot of someone saying something. I would agree. But now that we're in an era of AI where you can make anything appear on film, and we are
Yes.
now in such a soup of noise, just this cacophony of images that we don't even believe anymore. It would be really easy to slip a few things through, I think, and people would just be like, well, add that to the rest of the noise. That's certainly not a thing. That's not possible. You know, Martin Lloyd, the point of the season 4 episode with him, he's going through, and the lizard people and the Loch Ness monster. and General Hammonds has to keep on, fast forwarding the tape because he's going through the list of all the conspiracies. It's just he happens to be landing on the right one and is an alien under those circumstances. I genuinely think that when these folks go into these high security areas, and if they do go off world, they are far removed from their cell phone, and they have to go up to level 3 or wherever it is in order to even get that thing back. That would be the only way that you could contain that information and swear them to secrecy. Like, look, if we know that you're really attached to your children, it'd be a shame if something were to happen to them. I don't know if it would necessarily come to that, but you have to keep people in line. But also, you have to make sure that they believe in the mission. So there's a lot there.
I hear what you're saying, but then I think there was an episode, and forgive me for not remembering the exact episode, but there was an episode where I recall, God, now
give me the
I'm
information.
Myself because
No,
I don't
you're
even
okay.
remember
I just forgot
name.
one. You're fine. Give me some information.
There was an episode where an entire building disappeared, and
Ex Deus Machina.
They said the cover story was it was an earthquake, I believe,
a gas leak.
But
I think.
I'm thinking in this day and
weird.
age, again, of cameras, where everyone on the street is walking around with a camera in their pocket and they're shooting round continuously everything. A building just disappearing, and you're blaming it on an earthquake. Does that fly in today's society? Can we really believe that? You tell me a building is gone, there's an open lot, nothing around it is damaged, and you're
no
telling
debris.
me it's an earthquake.
Yeah, gas line explosion. That's complete BS. Yeah.
Exactly. So maybe my brain has gotten too logical for sci-fi, but I feel that I think the best sci-fi that I've seen is sci-fi that creates boundaries on how that world functions.
That's right.
And it stays within that boundaries. If A, B happens because of C, then we don't just suddenly introduce X. We stay within the world that we've created, and we make that science work. And to me, that's good sci-fi.
Yes.
So I think Stargate has established a world, a certain type of world, and I guess I'm hoping that they're able to write that world and continue that world in a way that will make sense, that we as fans, longtime fans, will look at it and go, yeah, that makes sense. And new fans will look at it and go, yeah, I like this. This is enough. Enough
you've hit it
to
on
the
the head.
point that I won't feel the need to go on the web and seek out Seedance to recreate my own scene. Because I feel like that's where we are right now with these new AI models, is that fans have been asking for certain things, and the studios have been saying, this is what we're going to give you. And now Seedance has suddenly appeared, and it's created a feel where if I'm not happy with the product you're feeding me, guess what? I can go create my own product. And
That's right.
Not only create my own product, but then distribute it to the point where everyone, I suddenly develop my own fan base that I'm siphoning from you to present my product. And that's one of the things I worry about, is that if the content that we're presented is subpar, then you open the door, or you leave a door open for fans to suddenly walk in and say, hey, I can do better.
That's right.
I think one of the most obvious thing I've seen is the Wolverine Deadpool thing. For years, people wanted to see that fight. We saw it on the comic book cover, and everyone wanted to see that fight. And the studios decided in Deadpool, we'll give you a taste. and they show you the claws, and you see the Hulk in the claws, and we said, and I guess the studio assumed, here you go, we gave it to you. Now we're telling our story. But guess what? Seedance comes along. The fans jump on it immediately, and what did I see? I saw the full-out fight between the Hulk and Wolverine. You know, this is stuff like that. I guess the studios can start crying foul and copyright infringement, and they can do the dance, but in the long run, all of that is irrelevant because this stuff is going to get more sophisticated. It's
That's
going to
right.
only get better, and at some point, it's going to be out of the studio's hands to control it, regardless if they own the rights to the property or not. It's going to be out of their hands. So my thinking is, the way you curb that is to write material that is so good that it shames the fans who then turn around and think they can do better. Because at the moment, unfortunately, the fans can do better. This
In
is where
some
we are.
cases. Well,
There is a lack of love for what they're putting out that the fans can do better. And it brings me back to that Star Trek thing I was talking about earlier, is that, you know, I think of my situation. When the Recliner Rage started, I was not a member of AFTRA.
yeah.
We aired a couple of bits, and immediately after came along and said, hey, if he's going to be on air, he has to be a member. And we resolved that. I became a member, and no problem. We continued and do it. And I'm thinking, with the Star Trek situation, when those fans created that project, in my mind, I'm thinking, what Paramount's move should not have been to exile those guys. If anything, I would have hired every single one of them. I would have created a contract where these folks were working for me now. I would have hired every single one of them. I would have created a contract, made them all become union members, created contracts that suddenly all the content that they're creating is being shared and co-owned by me, the Paramount, so that I would let them fly with it. Because guess what? In my mind, I'm thinking, these guys have just saved me the cost of creating a set. Yeah, I know there's going to be union members or stagehands who are going to complain and say, how you can't do that, these folks. But guess what? This is a property that had no life prior to what these fans are doing. I would make all these fans union members, start getting union dues from them. But all these sets are built. They took the time to build these sets in detail.
Yeah.
Now I own these sets. I co-own these sets. They're writing their own stories. The stories, as long as they're not vulgar stories or stories that are outrageous, they're family-friendly stories. Co-own these stories with these fans. They are saving you a lot of work by giving you a pre-packaged product. They're basically doing all the cooking. All I have to do is eat at this point. They've stayed in the kitchen and they've cooked the meal. All I have to do is be in the room and eat at this point. My feeling is they should have embraced these fans and supported what they're doing, because it's obvious they're doing something right because they have following, and that following is worth something. I would have just brought them in and really made them a part of the Star Trek experience rather than pushing them aside. Because from what I'm hearing, and I could be wrong because again I'm hearing this through bits and pieces of internet stuff, and I don't trust the internet to a large degree, but from what I'm hearing is that they were hiring people on the show who were vocally saying they want to work with other people who are not fans of Star Trek, and they have no clue of what Star Trek is about. And I'm thinking, how does that work? You know, I don't, putting Gene Roddenberry's politics aside, he wrote something in a certain way. He had a vision. He was an artist. He created a painting. And whether we all like the painting, for the most part, the majority of people did like the painting and they like what they saw. My thinking then is, how dare you come along and tell me you're going to take your brush and start marking up that painting? Create your own painting, if that's the point, if that's the case. Create your own.
You're hitting something there that
So
really is there's a few points that I want to address there. One of the things that Roddenberry did so well, and that I think a lot of creatives, if you look at some of the folks who created The Acolyte or some of the folks who created Rings of Power, Roddenberry did not have vitriol for his fan base. He welcomed everyone to sit in front of that painting and tell him what they saw in it. And I think that there is something to be said for that. I think if you start blaming your fandom right out of the gate for not getting the vision that you decided to put on a plate and serve to them, I don't think you're winning yourself any favors. And there is a certain degree of that I think is valid, and at a certain point it becomes malicious, and you're not going to win anyone over by doing that. The other part about what you said is kind of interesting, because we've, as both two Trekkies talking to each other here, we have been looking forward to the holodeck for years, and no one ever had a thought of, wow, when this thing shows up, it's going to potentially put a lot of people out of work. No, we were like, bring on the holodeck, bring on the holodeck. Holodeck 1.0 is here. It's not going anywhere. And so many of the people, even some of the people in this chat, are terrified of it and would rather turn their back on it and pretend that it doesn't exist, with the anticipation that if we pretend that it doesn't exist, kind of like a 1-year-old doing this, well, the rest of the world doesn't exist because I've closed my eyes. It's not going away. And Amazon recognizes that it's not going away. Amazon today is using AI tools to integrate into the content of their programming. We had John Godetsky on, who was a visual effects supervisor on SG-1 in Atlantis. He used AI tools on House of David to augment the process, not take it over. And that's where we're going to go. The industry can't pretend that torrents don't exist. Torrents do exist. Now, since torrents exist, what are you going to do to rise up to meet it at a reasonable price that at least matches the quality of the torrents? Because you're not going to get them to go away. You can whack-a-mole Kazaa and Napster and what was one of the other? I don't even remember. I had them all. But as soon as iTunes came along with a fair pricing mechanism, I was more than willing to put my money down and say, yes, I will absolutely pay for that because it's at least of a matching quality. There's a lot of stuff that you brought up that's valid points across the board. But I think the last one that I want to leave you with before handing it back over, the serve back over to you, is I think that Martin Gero and company, the way that they're really going to nail this, and it's like you said, the existing fans say, yeah, I love that. That was really cool. And the new fans can say, yeah, I love that too. I'm getting into this franchise, is if it's isolated enough from what everything else that existed before, at least the first season of whatever this thing is. There's a series called Paradise with Sterling K. Brown that I absolutely adore. And you can argue it's sci-fi, you can argue it's not sci-fi. And anyone within the sound of my voice, please go and watch it, because season 2 is airing right now. It is brilliant television. And it sets up rules for its universe, domed universe, spoilers. And They either once they're set up, they have to exist within them, and then that's it. And then everyone else goes along. We all, as an audience, go along with the story because it's like when you watch Inception. The rules have been established. Now we get to watch them dance inside of those rules and see how it works. And I think if they do that with Stargate 4, if they do it right in setting up SG-4 to be whatever it's going to be, I think they have a winner.
I agree with you. I 100% agree with you. Oh, you're mentioning franchises. I want to state for the record, I am a fan of Stargate Universe now. I remember a while back, a couple years back, I was not a fan. The reason being, again, the same way I discovered Stargate, I happened to be working and had the TV on in the background, and I saw a bunch of kids in a club dancing and stuff, and they're talking about nonsense, and I was about to turn the channel, but then the announcer came on and said something about Stargate Universe will be right back or something along those lines. I was like, what? Stargate? What? And I realized that was Stargate. That episode, they were
Janelle
using,
Monáe.
I forgot the name of the stones, and they were trading their bodies. But I didn't know that. All I know was I saw a bunch of teens, like it was a WB show.
It was Janelle Monáe
dancing
was
in
doing a
club and
concert.
talking about, yeah, and they would talk about nonsense. I'm thinking, this is Stargate? How dare you guys call this Stargate? And I never gave it a chance. Once I saw that, I was like, no way I'm watching that. I refuse. I absolutely refuse. I'm not going to watch that. So during its entire run, I never watched it. And it's only, I would say, about a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, it was on one of the streaming channels, and I thought, I'm curious what's going on here. So I watched the first episode, and what do you call it? Richard Dean Anderson was in it.
Yep.
He played a part in it, and he was general, and basically you had a group of people that were leaving this planet because it was being bombarded or something, and they ran into the Stargate, and the Stargate was connected to this ship, and somehow this ship, the hyperdrive or whatever, it suddenly took off, and before you knew it, they were no longer in our galaxy. And that episode hooked me. It literally hooked me. I was like, I gotta see where this is going. But in the back of my mind, I was still playing that episode with the teens, and I'm thinking, how does that fit in? How does this that I'm seeing in this first episode fit in with a bunch of kids dancing at a club? But it wasn't until I watched the entire thing that I suddenly understood where that fit in and how that fit into the overall story. And I have to admit, I was wrong. This was a really well-written show. It was well thought out. And it saddened me that it ended so prematurely, because I am dying to know what happened to all these folks. They went into sleep. That kid remained awake. What happened?
Certain fans didn't give it a chance, and we just didn't get to see the rest of it. As partly in consequence. I was one of them. Yeah, the first season I wasn't crazy about it, and then by the second season I was in love, and it became my favorite of the three. And I've taken my fair share of arrows for that to this day, but I will continue to stand up and speak my truth. I still love the other two, don't get me wrong, but it's something really very amazing about it. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I'm hoping that somewhere in this new show, they make mention of those folks. We don't just forget about them. We don't ghost them, because there's a huge story to be told with what's happening to them. It's Lost in Space on steroids, basically.
Yes.
There's a huge story there that I think that needs needs a proper ending, or needs to be continued in some way, because I think that final episode of, I think that was the third season, it just didn't
Season
do it
2.
justice. It
No.
left way too many
Yeah.
things open.
Yeah, you can't introduce we are pursuing a transmission that has been playing on the fabric of reality since the Big Bang, and not leave people going, what was going on with that? Where are we going to go? You know, people aren't going to go, give me the next one. Who? Fabric of reality. Transmission, who cares? No, tell me right now. It's like, tell me that story. And I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful that we'll get some kind of a resolution. It just depends on how well this new thing does. If it catches fire, and I will maintain that I think that they've, at this junction in time, where we're at Star Wars Episode 7 excitement. You know, Lucas has signed the paperwork with Disney, and they're creating this thing. They have one shot to really truly nail it, and if they can stick that landing, I think that anything is possible, Pierre.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I predict at least the first half of the first season is going to do huge numbers, because I believe the Stargate fandom is probably bigger than we imagine.
I agree.
It's just there's a lot of people who remember the show, who are still watching the show, and I think this Stargate will more than, again, this is me predicting. I could be totally off the wall because of my biases, but I believe Stargate is going to be the biggest sci-fi franchise in the next 5 years. That's my prediction. I think it's going to outshadow Star Trek. It's going to pass. I can't even think of what I even compare to Star Trek. Expanse.
Doctor
It's
Who.
just going to be huge. I think it has the potential to be huge if it's done right. And I'm praying and hoping, and I'm rooting for it to be done right. I want it to be done right. I want a lot of thought put into this show, and it's not something that they're just putting together to please a studio and please different groups. I'm hoping that a lot of thought goes into that writing, to the degree that the fandom will become so engaged that their next thought won't be to, oh, you know what? I'll just go on Seedance 10.5 to recreate the scene because I'm not happy with what is was given to me. I'm hoping that we will be presented something that is so amazing, jaw-dropping, that the fandom will just stick with it. And the only reason to go to something like Sea Dance is for the shippers who want to see certain people hook up. And
Jack and Sam, anybody?
that will be the
Oh,
reason
man.
to, yeah, that will be the reason to use AI. Other than that, you won't have that segment that will feel, I'm sure we'll still have that segment that feel I can do better, but it won't be as big and it won't be as prominent, and it will be background noise compared to what Stargate will have presented us and what it will be. That's my hope for it.
There is so much anger clickbait on YouTube now, and in a number of other places, where manufactured negativity and genuine rage are currency. The fact of the matter is,
Yes.
they get the highest number of clicks, And Google sells a lot of ads in order to pull that off because hatred feels good. And we know this because our limbic brains are that's just how they're built. I am disappointed in the number of channels that I know love Stargate and haven't been able to say a word about SG-4 because they have nothing negative to say about it. And because they have nothing negative to say about it, they're simply not going to talk about it, because how dare they speak something good into the universe on their channel? And that is something that I simply refuse to entertain on this channel. I won't do it. And I think that it's important that, if you have something, that to say that is negative, but still has that you believe is significant, I do think that it is you do have a responsibility to bring that into the world, but that can't be the only thing that you have. That can't be the only reason that you're here.
Exactly. But we'll see. We'll see what comes out in a couple of years. Like I said, I'm going to be ready. I'm going to have my Trader Joe's popcorn on hand, and I'm going to be ready. I'm going to be sitting there, and I'm going to be ready.
Absolutely. I've got a couple of questions for you. Marcia Middleton. Hello, Marcia. While you're waiting for the new Stargate,
Hey, Marcia.
what series and shows have you been watching and loving, or maybe not loving, Pierre?
This what I've been watching as of late was Viking shows.
Okay.
I don't remember how this came about on my feed, but somehow I was directed towards Netflix, and I started watching Viking Valhalla. And I love that show. And suddenly I was like, is there more to this? Because I wasn't happy with the ending. And then I discovered there was a pre-show called Vikings.
That's right.
So I started watching that. I watched that. Then I revisit something called The Seven Kings Must Die, I believe is the title. And now I'm back to watching Viking Valhalla again. And there's a bunch of Viking shows that are on my menu that I want to catch up on. But the show that I'm really dying to sit to watch right now is Andor.
Ah.
And the reason why Andor is because when Andor was airing, the first season, I watched the first season, half of it, and then I stopped. And the reason I did that was because I'm now part of the generation that needs to be able to stream the entire show. I don't like sitting around waiting for weekly releases. It drives me nuts. I can't do it anymore. So when Andor finished that first season, I was about to sit and watch it, but then I thought I discovered the second season was coming, and I said, you know what? I'm going to wait. I can't watch. I don't want to sit on a cliffhanger, having to wait 2 years to see where the story's going. So I waited, and once the second season was done, I was already watching, I believe, what do you call it? What was I watching at the time? I think it was The Expanse.
Okay.
At the time the second season of Andor was done. So I wanted to finish through The Expanse before I started a new show, and somehow I got, like I said, redirected into watching Vikings. So that's what I'm watching at the moment, Vikings. Hopefully Andor will be next. There's a couple of other series that I want to catch up on that are escaping my mind at the moment, but there are a few more sci-fi shows that I want to catch up on.
Okay.
I don't know if I answered your question, Marsha.
You did. Yeah, you answered Marsha's question. Yeah, I mean, I'm the exact same way. I haven't gotten into The Expanse or Andor or a couple of others because I wanted to wait until they were done, and now I have no time. So I guess that's my own fault. But
Yeah,
no, exactly, it can relate. Life's too short to just sit around and wait season to season. Um, Lockwatcher wanted to
exactly.
know, would you
And,
be
you
willing
know,
to go ahead?
oh, I was going to say as a side note, sorry to interrupt you there.
You're fine.
Uh, this is one of the things about the upcoming Stargate series that I worry about is the fact that my mind tells me they're probably going to go for that weekly release. And I'm thinking, how am I going to deal with that? Knowing what I've established for myself for the last 3 years, it's become part of my DNA to wait for complete seasons of shows before I start watching them. Am I going to be sitting now, going on YouTube, listening to people review episodes, and now because the review is there and I'm aware of the plot, wait a year or two till my mind forgets what I recall seeing so I can really enjoy the show. That means then if we're fortunate to get this show next year, I may not be watching it till
Yeah.
2030,
Well,
2031
it's
because
a
I don't want to spoil it and I don't want to wait weekly for releases. So I
here
don't know.
here's the thing, Pierre. You have to decide, do you want to I did the same thing except when Obi-Wan came out. I watched it weekly. So I had to make a decision. Am I going to um keep my rule constant for everything and have a solitary viewing
Right.
experience? Or do I want to? It's a hard and fast rule, but it's a rule that's within my purview to break and have a communal viewing experience for this one show. And so I did that with Obi-Wan, for instance. So the same thing that I did with Game of Thrones. There were a couple of shows that were the exception to the rule. And you will have a year and a half, 2 years to make your decision about that for this one.
No, you're right. You're totally right. You know, the whole idea of communal experience is a good point. I, I ever since COVID, I've lived in a bubble, and it's been a
A lot of us have.
very
Yeah.
constrictive bubble. I, I can't say I hate what the world around me has become because I know I play a part in setting up
Yeah.
that the environment that I'm in. But at the same time, I'm aware it's not the healthiest of spaces to be in because I don't know how to describe it because I haven't given it that much thought on how to describe what I'm thinking at the moment. But I know I live a certain life of isolation
Mm.
in a way that a lot of people I know who are part of my life are I've I've and now I wouldn't say exclude them because that sounds harsh, but I keep them on the peripheral. I keep them far from me. I don't know if it's me protecting myself or or I don't even know how to describe it if what I'm even saying makes sense because it sounds now that I'm saying it out loud, it almost sounds like the ranting of a lunatic. But I
Maybe a
I
little bit of
just
column A and column B there, Pierre.
I yeah, I feel like I, going back to what you said, I think the whole communal experience is probably what I should seek out because that might help me in a lot of ways, aside from just watching the show and accepting the fact that it's a weekly release. But it might help me get out of what I've created, the space I've created. And it didn't
Hmm.
it didn't help either the fact that I left the country a couple of years ago. I think you were aware at the time because I
Hmm.
was asking you about the Philippines. And once I went out there, my worldview changed. I highly recommend to everyone at least travel to a foreign country at least once in your lifetime. It's going to change you in ways that you may not expect.
Amen.
And in that short period of time, yeah, in that short period of time I was out there, I came back and that that bubble I was describing suddenly became harder to puncture. If anything, it feels like I reinforced that bubble because I suddenly realized the world that I'm living in here does not match up to the world that's existing out there. It's different. And I don't want to get into the politics and stuff, but it's different to such a degree that I realize this world that I'm in
We're so
doesn't
spoiled.
suit me properly. And that's why I've created this bubble because I feel there's a lot of stuff going on around me that I genuinely don't want exposure to and I don't want to deal with. And by creating this bubble and keeping people at a distance, I don't have to hear this noise and I can just focus on the memory of what I saw when I escaped this for that brief period of time. And I want to get back. I keep thinking of that again, another Star Trek reference. That movie episode where the character Rodney McDowell's character was it Rodney McDowell's character? He wanted to get back to something called the Nexus.
Oh,
He
yeah.
experienced it and he
Yeah,
saw his
Malcolm
family and
McDowell's
stuff.
character. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
yes,
Yes.
Malcolm
Totally on
McDowell.
Soren. He
Yeah,
wanted
and
to get
I
inside
keep
of,
thinking
yeah, to a place of joy. There is nothing like um, absolute culture shock for yourself when you live in a third world country and it's time for you to come home and you don't want to. You have to be ripped away from it. And that was the
exactly,
experience that I had. I didn't want to come
exactly.
back.
So
I didn't
yeah,
want to come
so
back to the decadence, to the oversaturated the commercialism. Oh, so and so said something on Twitter and now the other person must apologize, otherwise we cancel
exactly,
them. You go into the third world and it is all bullshit. They don't care about that. It doesn't matter. It's not real life.
exactly, exactly. That I think back on my life. I remember there was this is decades ago. There was someone I was dating, and at the time, and she convinced me to go to Santo Domingo.
Ah,
And at the time, I remember the what you call it, the internet was new. We were in, this was the year of the dial-up, and anyway, I didn't have a phone that had internet, but I had the laptop, the big bulky laptop that had internet. And my biggest concern was, will I have an internet connection out there?
yeah.
And and she booked the trip. We went, and I remember the first day, I was stubborn. I stayed in the room. She went out to the beach and she's enjoying herself and stuff. And I was in the room, arms folded, head lying in the bed because I couldn't connect to the internet. And I was
Your
annoyed.
umbilical was
But I think
disconnected
there
and
was
you
by
were
day,
uncomfortable.
oh yeah, but by day two, because by the evening I had to come out to eat. And I started enjoying myself. But by day two, I was outdoors and it was like I forgot all about the internet. I forgot all about the laptop.
Mm-hmm.
Only thing that was on my mind was getting outside and
That's
enjoying
right.
myself in that sun. And the same thing happened when I went to the Philippines. I remember I, I can't I took, believe it or not, I took a portable printer. I took a portable scanner. I had my laptop. I had several hard drives with me. I literally took enough stuff to be able to sit out there and do work, never leave the hotel room and do work. And at the time when I was setting up that trip, it didn't help that I had a friend, good person. It meant well, but her and her mom were sending me emails not to go, and they made a phone call where they stated reasons for my not traveling to the Philippines, and you're going to be kidnapped, you're terrorists. And, it was
Oh,
insane, the amount of stuff, to the point that when I landed out there, I I realized it suddenly dawned on me, I don't speak the language. I don't know anyone. And I'm looking around me and I saw the poverty and stuff, and I'm thinking, oh God, did I make a mistake? And in my head, I'm thinking, and when I landed, the phone started working again, and I saw a message, a long message from my friend, and she described all the bad things that are going to happen to me. And I'm thinking to myself, oh God, I got to get back home. I got to, but unfortunately, the hotel room, the internet wasn't working. I couldn't connect. Because if I could have connected, I would have called the airline, booked my flight to get out of there. But it wasn't working. So I told myself, okay, calm down.
Yeah.
We're in the morning, we'll go get a breakfast because I
Yeah.
had the buffet breakfast included. I said,
Okay.
I'll get the breakfast, then I'll go to the front desk. I'll get get phone and I will call the airline. I'll get my plane ticket to leave. So in the morning, my routine was I went to the gym, did my thing, went to breakfast. I'm sitting in the cafeteria, and long story short, I met this family that was from Texas, and we
Mhm.
started talking. And the guy, the wife, they went up to get food. The guy sitting there, and we started talking. I told him I'm planning to leave, and I told him why. And the family came back, they're all sitting down, and he goes, "This guy's from California, LA," and they greeted me and stuff. And he goes, "You shouldn't leave." He said, "I tell you what, stay and have lunch with us later on. We're meeting some friends across the street at, I think it's called Ayala Mall, and come meet us, join us for lunch." And I thought to myself, okay, I paid for this stuff already. The room is
That's
prepaid.
right.
I'm not going to get a refund on the room. And I haven't booked a new flight yet. So I told him, yeah, okay, I'll come across the street and join you guys for lunch. That's 2 hours out. So I went across the street and joined them for lunch. And it was this huge family. To begin with, I didn't even know there was a mall next to the hotel. But this mall is amazing. It was the most modern mall I've ever seen. I mean,
Yeah.
it puts a lot of our malls here in America to
Yeah.
shame. So going to this restaurant, is modern and it's huge and people eating and you know, it 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 did not fit the description of everything I was worried about. It was
Correct.
something totally different. But I sat with these folks and we're sitting and we're talking and they're laughing with me and then and and the person from Texas told his friend that I'm new and would they be willing to chaperone me more or less and take me around and show me the Philippines. And the family said, yes, we will. And you know, in my mind, I'm thinking, being an American and a New Yorker, first most, I am always thinking paranoia. You know, I'm
Yeah.
thinking, am I going to seriously go around
Yeah.
anywhere in a country I don't know with strangers I don't know? But they left me after that meal was over. I was left with a feeling that I hadn't felt in a very long time. Oh, I shouldn't say a very long time, but I haven't felt since I've been around my immediate family, my mom, which was these people are okay.
That's right.
So I think it was 2 days. The weekend came. The wife of the Filipino wasn't working, and the entire family was together. And they told me they're having a birthday party for their. I forgot how they refer to their mom, and
Uh-huh.
they told me that they're going on taking this cruise that's going island hopping. They're doing an island hopping thing, and I'm welcome to join them. And I thought to myself, yeah, sure, why not? It wasn't until I got in their car. They came and picked me up at the hotel, and I got in their car, and we're driving out, and I suddenly see the ocean, and it dawned on me, you're going on a boat with a bunch of strangers. You don't know these folks. You don't know where they're taking you. And in that on that ride, I was getting ready to tell them I want to go back to the hotel, but then
Yeah,
there was a part of me that said, you know what? Let it be. Let's go with this and see where this is going. If it turns out bad, so be it. It's not what I want. God knows I don't want to harm myself, but these folks, nothing about them
that's
strike
right.
me as people who will harm me. Not to mention they have two young kids in the car with us. I mean, a 3-year-old and a 4-year-old. This is not a group of people, if they're going to harm me, I would think would bring kids that young along for the ride. So
That's
we
right.
did the island hopping thing, and it turned out to be the greatest thing. I discovered Luchan. I didn't know I would love Luchan. It's like
I never got to
after that
go.
trip, for the next week and a half, these folks took me around and they showed me
Yeah,
places in Cebu that were just amazing that the normal tourists wouldn't see. By the time I was ready to leave, I kid you not, I was teary-eyed the night before. I was looking
that's
out the
right.
hotel window, looking at the folks at poolside down there, and I became teary-eyed. I did not want to leave. I was like, at that point, I had not used any of the equipment I bought out with me out there. All the computers
Good.
didn't. I literally, I didn't even remember how to use half of that stuff. I had to retrain myself. But when I boarded that flight, that was the most painful flight to board because I knew I had to come home. But coming home, I don't know how to explain it. It felt different. I mean, when I left, because of my collectibles, I had the place wired up with cameras everywhere. I mean, if a pin dropped in my place, I would have been aware of it. I had cameras everywhere in my place. But while I was out there, again, because the internet wasn't working properly, I wasn't able to access all those cameras. And and once I started traveling and seeing the Philippines, I forgot about those cameras. I couldn't care
That's right.
less if the stuff was here when I
Yeah,
came back because I divorced myself from everything about the life
that's right.
that I had collected here in
Yep.
America. I literally, I don't know how to explain it, but I couldn't care less. If someone had come in and taken this stuff, they would have done me a favor, quite frankly, because I would have gotten on the first flight possible to head right back to the Philippines. That was my mindset. When I came back, I didn't even unpack. For 3 months, my suitcase laid fully packed in my living room because in my head I was thinking, I'm going to figure out a way to leave.
Hmm.
I was looking at this like the Nexus. I wanted to go back,
Back to the
and
Nexus.
I
Yeah.
wasn't unpacking because
Yes.
unpacking meant I was staying. But I unpacked and I stayed and I'm here. And I re-assimilated myself. But I realized once you leave the bubble that you're in, the bubble that we live in, and you go somewhere else, and you see something else, and you experience something else, it's hard to come back and be satisfied with the status quo of your life. Suddenly, you've opened yourself up to the possibility of something that I don't know how to describe it, but it's different. And I think that's where me I exist right now in this life is that I exist in a space where I experienced something that literally changed the way I think and see the world. And therefore, it's hard for me to sit and listen to the folks around me, even though they mean well, listen to what they're bringing, contributing into my life, because what they're contributing doesn't fit in with what I've now
That's right.
experienced and where I'm at. And I don't know if
That's right.
that's making any sense, but
I
I think this is part of the reason why I've created this weird bubble world that I live in where I've put everyone around me at a distance because there's a fear in me that if I don't do that, I'm gonna forget and I'm gonna lose what I experienced a couple of years ago. And that's why, long story short, going back to what you mentioned a while ago about communal watching, I think I need that at the moment because I'm in a place where I'm not ready to leave yet, but I need to learn how to be part of a community again and not lose what I experienced when I wasn't part of it. Does that make sense? I,
You answered the call to adventure when you chose to go with that family in the Philippines. There is something about the Pinoy culture that is certainly not unique to the Pinoys, but it is certainly a part of their society to welcome in the outsider and to embrace the outsider.
yes,
And what you did was you said, "This makes me uncomfortable. I don't know what's going to happen to me. I might not come back from that boat trip, but I'm going to do it because I need that soul nourishment, and I'm going to answer the call to adventure." And the experience that you and I both had in coming home, my team of people, we left the group of people that we were working with the time
excuse
that we
me.
were out there, and we were sobbing. Just all the people that we left behind were at the doorstep waving and just crying, and we were all. I was there for 6 months, and I just remember turning to the others in the car, and just tears are pouring down my face, and I just remember saying, "This really sucks." And I always have a piece of that Pinoy spirit in me, and I mean I've been blessed to visit almost 40 countries and territories because at this point in my life I've recognized that I cannot ignore the call to adventure. And what you and I experienced is something that most Westerners never get to experience, a willingness to be in a place long enough to allow its culture to transform you. And it's what the Knox said in that season 1 episode. Your way is not the only way. And we got to experience that.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I can only imagine. I only did 2 weeks. I can only imagine what happens to your head space in 6 months.
Devastating.
That,
Devastating.
yeah, I can only imagine, I can't, yeah. But yeah, that's the thing. I definitely think I have to find that communal watching. I hope you guys on Dial the Gate will have watch groups. I'll definitely become part of that because I feel I need to find a way to reconnect with the folks around me that that I feel comfortable and safe in making that reconnection. Because literally right now, the world I live in is so isolated. It's almost as if I've gone into a rocket ship and I'm flying out in space at
Yeah.
times. Uh, to a certain degree, the way I keep myself preoccupied, and this is a weird way to lead into this, is I've been creating puzzle books. I've been that for the last 3 years. It started pre-Philippines, but once I came back, that became this has become the focus of what I've been doing with myself. I've been creating these books, these puzzle books. I've always had a fascination with word search puzzles, and I decided to take it a step further since I noticed there's a ton of word search puzzle books out there on the market. I wanted to do something creative, so I decided to do number search. I noticed number search aren't as popular, so and then I decided, why not do books with quotes in them? So as you saw in that one previous, the pink book, Think Pink, that was for cancer patients, people who are suffering from cancer. I had positive quotes on every page spread
Wow.
to give someone something positive to think about while they're sitting solving the
Uh-huh.
puzzle. And these books just got more and more complex. Once I came back from the Philippines, I wanted to do a Philippine book, and I did one where in the corner I created there you go, what's called mini facts. And I tried to find as many little facts about the Philippines that I can just throw on the page. Nothing detailed, nothing heavy, but little facts, little thoughts that I'm hoping someone reading it will go, is that true? And they'll take the
It
time
is
to
the text
go
capital of the world for
and
sure.
research
They
that.
love to be in their phones.
Yeah, so I created a number of books like this. I created one on Jamaica, on Trinidad, on Haiti, on African American culture. I created one on Australia, on Canada, on Japan. I think in all I've created 75 books and
Oh
counting.
my.
There is just a ton of these books, and each one I've taken the time to design so that they look very different from each other because I want, if anyone purchases one or two of these books, I don't want them to go, this is the same book, different images, but same book. I made sure every puzzle experience is very, very
Oh
unique.
my
The
gosh, look at
Steampunk is my
this.
latest book. Creating this book was a labor of love because for 2 years I've been thinking about this book and I couldn't figure out how to put it together. I kind of knew what I wanted, but I didn't know what I wanted, how to put it on the page. And it suddenly dawned on me back in November. It started fleshing itself out and coming together. And this is the end result with the gears and stuff. And on the side panel, there's a quote, a positive quote that's steampunk related. If you notice on the left-hand side along the side of the page. And this book, once it was done, I felt very proud of this. I feel like this book shows the potential of what I can create when I really put myself at it. And it's not easy. I mean, I dare someone to take a screen grab and try to solve one of these puzzles in an hour. It's almost
Oh
impossible.
my God.
I created this, and I can tell you it's taken me time at times. I need to keep the what do you call it? The answer key page nearby because at times I'm like, how the hell did I design this? Who am I designing this for? This is hard. So yeah, I feel proud of these books. I hope, and it's just in a world where people are talking about spending less screen time and finding other activities to do. I'm hoping this can become a part of their activity. They'll look at this and go, wow, this is very different. And a huge plus, I don't even have to know English to do this because it's using images and icons and you know, so I'm hoping this is something that will take off. People will see the value of it. At least for me, I see the value of it because it keeps me sane. Keeps me it gives me something to focus on so I don't unravel to the point that I can't find my path to return. Because another thing that occurred in my life, uh, I don't want to dwell too much on, but my mom
You're
passed
okay.
away 3 years ago.
Oh
So
man.
that has added to, when I traveled, I took that energy with me out there as well. So it's like there's a lot of stuff going on around me that, yeah, I'm not saying my world is bad by no means. I feel like we started this thing. I said I feel comfortable and furious. I feel I'm in a good place, but it can be better. It can definitely be better. And I definitely know, given what's going on around me, there are questions I'm asking myself and the world that I know there's no answer to. Like, for example, what happens after death? I will find out, but it has to happen in order for me to find out. I am trying to understand. why do we exist?
Yeah.
Why do we exist as we are? I'm thinking of evolution and what I've been told about how we've evolved and stuff. I'm thinking efficiency. Well, if you're telling me this is evolution has created me, why did evolution decide that I needed sleep? I needed rest? It's obvious we're creating computers that don't need rest, that don't need sleep. They can run round the clock. They do break down eventually, but they don't need sleep. But unlike the computer, we need sleep, we need rest. What occurred in evolution that decided this was the path that we needed to go? I think of something as simple as going to the restroom. Why did evolution decide that we needed to create waste? What, 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 if we came from stardust, I don't, again, this is based on the science that I know. I don't see the sun creating waste. I don't see the universe creating waste, unless you tell me the dark energy is waste. Maybe that's what that is. I don't know. But I'm trying to understand, why did evolution decide what we are at the moment is what the direction we had to evolve? Why, these are things I'm constantly
You're tapping
wondering
into
about
questions
these
that
days. It's like,
philosophers have been trying to put the finger on for a very long time, and
yeah,
I don't know if we'll be able to tackle any of those in this episode, but the fact of the matter is that Stargate is a burgeoning community once again, and it's a great place to
yes,
be and to be with. I don't want to bury the overall point that it's important to make connection with people in the physical world as well. And that's certainly. I have a neighbor 2 or 3 doors down from me that I just found out in shoveling snow this winter is a Stargate fan, and he's a priest who works at the army base down the road from me here in Fort Campbell and outside of Nashville, Tennessee, and he's a Stargate fan. So you can make those connections with, in fact, I need to call him today. You can make those connections with real people, and it's important that we
yes.
do that. So
I agree. I totally agree. And again, that's what I'm hoping will come from Stargate. And this is why I believe it's going to become the biggest franchise out there, because I think it's going to bring, I want to believe it's going to bring us together in a way that everything else in society has failed us. I think it's going to bring people from different ways of thinking and unify us on this one topic and get us all talking and create a kumbaya environment that I think without it doesn't exist. I think Stargate.
You don't want to set the bar too high for Martin, Pierre. I mean, let's have him do a decent.
I'm setting it high.
8, 10, 12 hours of television first, and we'll worry about world peace second. So.
Okay. All right. All right.
God. Pierre, this has been great. It's been a treat to really sit down with you again, especially post Philippines, to have that conversation with you.
Yes.
Thank you for sharing your story. That means a lot to have that here as a part of the archive. And here's to another cameo in the new show, because
I'm hoping. I
Chief
can only
Master
hope.
Sergeant O'Brien's got to be out there somewhere.
I can only hope. And like I said, I've kept the suit pristine. I mean, I'm ready.
Absolutely. That's right, man. Anywhere that we can go to check out your continued work?
Yes. The website for the puzzle book, pbartcreations.com. It's my website. I'm selling the books directly. For those who would not want to, yeah, this is the website. And for those who would like to use a different route, there's Amazon. They're available on Amazon and Barnes and Noble, and another third site called lulubooks.com.
Okay.
But I would prefer you go to me directly, buy it off my website. This way you can leave me stories and tell me what you think of the books, and give me some reviews because I would love feedback. Because, like I said, sometimes I feel I've made these books so complex that I'm thinking, my God, I don't want to make it too hard that people are afraid to try them out. But I do want to make them so that they're engaging, that you're spending more than 1 hour on a puzzle. I really feel that I want to work your mind. I want it to become a real mind workout because again, going talking about word search books, there are tons of them, and we, particularly with English, we know words, basic
For
words. We know
sure.
how they look, we know how they spell, and when you're looking on a puzzle that has familiar out, I can't get the word out, but familiar icons, you know what you're looking for. Whereas when you're looking for images, they're random, and there's no way for you to have a pre association of the sequence. Therefore, it really forces you to look and take the time to look for a sequence of images that are very random and try to pick topics that I think are interesting, like the donut one you showed before. I kid you not, my stomach was growling for days
I'll
because I
bet it
can't eat a
was.
lot of sugar. And, yeah, and here I am
Oh
looking
my
at
God.
donuts.
Oh man. Pierre, I totally
That
get
was a
that.
killer
Well,
book to make.
we've added the link in the description below, folks, so you can go and check out Pierre's website, pbartcreations.com. That's really cool, man. Very, very well done. I've always loved your work. So
Thank you.
thank you for sharing it. So, um, this has meant a lot to me to have you, and looking forward to getting your thoughts on the new show once it finally comes out here in the next well, hamster's life or so. So we will have to definitely be in touch with you.
Definitely, definitely. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely, sir. I'm going to go ahead and wrap up on this side, but we will be in touch soon.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Talk to you
That
soon.
is Pierre
Live long and
Bernard.
prosper.
Live long and prosper to you, Pierre. Pierre Bernard O'Brien in Stargate SG-1's 0 Hour and in 200 as well. My name is David Reed. You're watching the Stargate Oral History Project. If you enjoyed the episode and you want to see more content like this on YouTube, do click that like button. If you have something to say about the content that you saw, please leave a comment. That actually makes a huge difference in moving the needle. And consider sharing the video with a Stargate friend. And if you want to get notified about future episodes, click subscribe. And giving the bell icon a click will notify you the moment a new video drops, and you'll get my notifications of any last-minute guest changes. We've got a couple more episodes heading your way pretty soon here. I am heading to LA Thursday morning. So there will be a couple of pre-recorded shows that are going to launch while I'm gone. Please God, let them launch. And we'll go forward from there. But dialthegate.com should have all of the current information. A couple of shows are going to sneak in there. We're doing what we can with the list of programming coming out. But there's a couple of pieces that are moving in and out right now that I'm just going to have to play basically musical chairs with, and then we'll get them out to you when we can. So I appreciate everyone's patience on that, especially the folks in Vancouver. They've been waiting for some of these shows to come out now for a while, and we're doing what we can to get them out to you. My name is David Reed for Dial the Gate. I appreciate you tuning in. Thanks again to Pierre Bernard. Thanks so much to my moderating team. These guys, they pull this show off week in and week out. Thank you, Lockwatcher, Marcia, Anthony. You guys are the best. We will see you tomorrow with Michael Greenberg and Dan Shea. I'll see you on the other side.